Ace Bailey is an 18-year-old prospect who's going to most likely go top 3 of the NBA draft. And at 6'10 with a pretty developed skill set, Ace has the foundation to be a top tier scorer in the NBA. Now when diving into his film, the first thing that stands out is Bailey's shot making. Along with that height, Ace also has a really high release point on his jumper. So if the defense crowds his space or sends extra bodies towards him, none of that is stopping him from getting his jumper off. Off the catch, Ace is also comfortable facing up from the mid post or behind the 3. Watch him here slowly square up with the defense, while protecting the ball on that outside hip. And once the defense moves those hands, he gets the ball right to his set point with no wasted movement. When facing up, Ace is also great at using these simple pivots to create space. And these are the type of shots he's going to consistently create against mismatches. I love how he gets his man off bounce with the shimmy, to then find a space to elevate. I also like this play here, where Ace is now pivoting off that right foot, but he's still comfortable jabbing with his left, to then bring it all the way back for a shot.
Got some space with the shot fake.
But then along with that pivot game, Ace is also comfortable putting the ball down and getting into jumpers off the dribble. And while his numbers on pull-ups aren't super high, I do think he's developing a really effective process for generating these looks. Like we've gone over, that lift allows him to get a shot off at will. Plus he's also comfortable using his body to bump and create space. Watch him here rip towards the baseline, to then initiate contact with that inside shoulder. And he's again able to find his base and rise up for a stable look. The balance on this shot is super tough, where he first hits this left to right crossover, and with his hips squared up with the baseline, he still has the balance to lift, turn, and sink this jumper. On top of that ability to face up and attack his spots on the floor, Ace also has the handle to put it down and size up his man for in-rhythm jumpers. One of his go-to moves is this between hezzy pull-up, and he's comfortable hitting this move going both right and left. Watch him here transfer the ball through and skip his feet up, selling that downhill drive, but then he's going to gather and rise up for his jumper. Off the bounce, Ace also has the footwork and ball control to put combinations together to get the defense off balance. Again, while many of these shots aren't falling, the foundation is still for sure there. We'll see him here playing with the ball back and forth, to then bring it up to his pocket and open his stance, selling that drive. And once he feels the defense shifting, he's then going to cross it back and elevate into his jumper. This move here reminds me of Paul George, where Ace is going to hezzy to then push off that back foot, selling the blow by. But in one smooth motion, watch him transfer the ball between, to then rise up for a quick left-right jumper. So Ace having the lift to get his jumper off at will, the balance to hit really difficult shots, while also having a pretty developed pivot game and handle, already gives him the perfect build for scoring at the next level. But Ace being able to generate shots at will can be a double-edged sword. First, with the ball, Ace commonly plays with tunnel vision. If he catches at one of his go-to spots, he's pretty much guaranteed to force up a jumper regardless of how the defense plays him. And because he's always super honed in on scoring, this allows the gap defense to sit heavy and help, which then gives the man guarding the ball a license to apply more pressure. And this generally leads to a bunch of contested off-balance jumpers. We'll see him again here catching face up. But notice how the entire defense shifts across the floor to provide extra help. And these cross-court skip passes are simply not reads that he has in his arsenal yet. I also think Ace needs to get better at finding his shots in the flow of the game. Again, while Ace has the tools to get a shot off at will, that still doesn't mean he should be forcing up tough looks early in the shot clock. Take this play for example. Ace is pushing the ball in early offense, and as soon as he crosses half court, he immediately launches up a contested 3. While I do love the aggression, this is still objectively not a good shot.
Back in, quick trigger.
Now the next thing I want to look at is Bailey's downhill scoring. To start off with the positives, I think Ace has a really sneaky first step. Because the defense is so paranoid about him scoring from over the top, they're pretty much always pressuring and looking to crowd his airspace, which then leads to these easy straight line drives. And around the basket, Ace's size and length can take over. And while there's parts of his finishing that are still a little raw, there's no doubt that Ace has the build to be a really dynamic paint scorer in the future. This play here is big time, where Ace is going to rip towards the baseline, but then as these two defenders collapse, watch him pick up and euro through, getting to the other side of the rim. So if Ace can turn the corner, he clearly has enough size to generate some good offense. but at the same time, I would like to see him add some more counters to his game. If his initial drive gets walled off, there's not many consistent counters that he has. I would love to see more plays like this, where Ace rips to his right, then spins back over towards the middle, and he rises up with his soft left-hand push shot. While playing downhill, Ace's strength is another limiting factor. Because he's 18 and still growing into his body, he can be pretty unstable off the dribble, and he does have a hard time absorbing contact in the paint, which leads to him getting pushed out into these tougher off-balance finishes. And because he's not comfortable with the ball in traffic, Ace tends to rush up looks as opposed to playing patient and making the right reads. Look how he pulls the entire defense down towards the paint. But instead of hitting the cutter or making any of these kickout passes, he ends up getting swallowed by the defense. So right now, I think Ace is generally more comfortable settling for outside looks, as opposed to putting the ball down and living in the paint. And this past year at Rutgers, Bailey attempted more in-between pull-ups and shots at the rim. Now, much of this could be chalked up to the lack of spacing in college, but at the same time, it's pretty apparent that Ace prefers to seek out perimeter jumpers. Look how his teammate is going to cut through, giving him the entire right side of the floor to work with. But instead of attacking into that space, Ace launches up another step back three. We can see a similar thing here, where Ace again has a ton of space towards the baseline, but he instead pounds the ball and looks to separate with a step back towards the deep corner. So with the ball in his hands, I think Ace Bailey is one of the most talented shot creators in this draft class. While I do think his basketball feel and overall strength has some room for improvement, his skill set and physical tools still makes his on-ball creation look really promising. And what I also love about Ace's game is that he has the potential to bring a big scoring punch off the ball. First, Ace already has the foundation to be an elite shooter off the catch. Again, he's got the lift to rise up and over contests, plus there's absolutely no fat in his mechanics. He always catches with his feet set, and he's bringing the ball up in one smooth motion.
Today from Michigan State. Bailey!
That ability to spread the floor and dot threes is enough by itself to make him an easy fit in any offense. And this past year, his numbers on catch and shoot threes have looked really promising. But off the ball, Ace is much more than just your typical standstill shooter, where he also has the balance and footwork to work off different screening actions, to then settle his feet for on-balance jumpers. And that movement combined with Bailey's elevation makes these actions really difficult to defend. Because if you give Ace any airspace on the perimeter, he's going to be quickly settling his feet to fire. On this baseline out of bounds play, Rutgers is just going to set the simple cross screen. And look how quickly Ace gets his feet set on the catch, to then bring the ball up with no hitches. But at the same time, if you overplay his shot off the catch, he can also put it down for one dribble pull-ups. And that's also the case while Ace is spotting up from a standstill, where he also has the game off the dribble to put it down and attack aggressive rotations, being able to both stop short and pop jumpers, as well as explode all the way to the basket.
19.
Now the last thing I should mention is that Ace also has the tools to be a monster in the open court. He's got the speed to fill lanes and finish plays, the ball skills to push and lead the break himself, plus he has that pull-up shooting in his back pocket. Pretty much all the best offenses in the NBA are getting out and running in transition, and Ace being a legit scoring threat both on or off the ball is going to be nothing but a positive. So while Ace still has some raw parts in his game, I still think his talent and potential is off the charts. And probably the most underrated part about him is that he's actually really versatile. He can generate offense from the perimeter or in the post, he can space the floor off the ball as a spot-up shooter, or work off different screening actions. And on top of all that, he also has the athleticism and skill to be a monster on the open floor. I think once he gets better at reading the game and picking his spots, he could very quickly become a top tier scorer in the NBA. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments who the kid should break down next. The Kid's here.